And it says we're live again.
Oh, jolly good.
Hello,
And
hello.
this should be Richard.
Absolutely.
Come
Well,
on down.
I'm going to just do an introduction briefly here. We have a really special guest today. We're very lucky to have him. He's a super busy man, and he's been a tad under the weather, I hear, but looking gorgeous and fighting fit this morning. So without further ado, we will bring on the inventor, founder of the Composers Breakfast Club, the composer behind 150 TV shows and 60 films, and former member of Oingo Boingo. Ladies and gentlemen, let the confetti fall out of the sky for Richard Gibbs. Yay, good morning.
Hello, Richard. How are you?
And I love it with an English accent. It makes it all the better.
Oh, absolutely. We charge extra for that, for our sponsors.
As you should.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
And we'll be joining you next Monday in Malibu for your Composers Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too.
Before we start on going back to the beginning, because the Composers Breakfast Club is sort of first up next Monday, we'll be there. How on earth did that get started? Was it you talking to a mirror, or just three of you having pancakes, or what's the story?
Basically the latter. I used to be part of a networking group out here called Metal, and I liked the concept of it, but there were certain things about it I didn't like, and one of them was that it was men only. I thought that was ridiculous. And I had a couple of buddies who were fellow composers who lived here in Malibu that we would get together every so often and have lunch and commiserate. And I thought, let's do this every Monday morning, because I know no composer worth of salt has anything to do early Monday morning. I wanted to do it at 8 a.m. Yeah. I'm a surfer. To me, that's like late. Yeah. And they balked at that, so we compromised at 9, and that was 13 years ago. We started every Monday morning. The three of us would meet.
Yeah.
And slowly, organically, we started inviting other friends, other composers. And I just tongue-in-cheek and called it the Composers Breakfast Club. And it's grown organically over the years. We've outgrown different venues. For a long time, we were at the Soho Club here in Malibu called the Little Beach House. But now we're at a wonderful place called Dreamland in Malibu that's run by Aviator Nation. And it's right across the street from the Malibu Pier. They have great stage and sound and lights, and it's kind of a space. It's really fun. You ladies will see on Monday.
Ladies.
Oh, that was your first mistake.
How dare you?
Ladies.
Ladies.
Very dare you.
Old bags, please.
Old tolls. Old tolls.
Yeah, it looks like an incredible venue.
Yeah, it looks lovely. I'm so looking forward to it.
What was it before? Was it a Carl's Jr. or Burger King or something? Or?
No. It used to be called the Malibu Inn. It was an old roadhouse here in Malibu where everybody would play when they were passing through on their way to Santa Barbara or whatever.
Yeah.
At one stage, it was owned by Neil Young, and it was called Crazy Horse.
Right. Really?
So it has deep history.
Yeah.
I believe it's registered as an historic building of some sort.
So is Ange.
Yeah, I've got my blue tag and everything. Yeah.
It's a great old spot. I mean, it's not exactly the Cavern Club, but it's as close as we get in Malibu.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So how many people do you usually get? 20, 30?
The low end would be 40.
Oh, gosh.
And in Memorial Day, we had this great local band called Ozo Motley. Ozo played, and we had probably about 150 people.
Good.
But it was a Memorial Day, and it was kind of a special event for us.
Yeah, right. That's fantastic.
I would anticipate at least 50 people on Monday.
Okay, jolly good. You are also you've expanded to other areas because Malibu can be a schlep if there's rock, rain, mud, slide, falls, rock, whatever's. You're also on the west side and in the valley and Nashville, I see.
That's correct. We did that because people kept wanting me to expand it. Because we've got, 2,000 people, 2,500 people on the mailing list.
Good grief.
And a lot of, got a lot of attention to it. And we people said, well, you need to get a bigger venue, get more people. And I said, I don't want that. I like the intimacy of it.
Sure.
And I would tell people, kind of cherry pick people within the group, said, if you'd like to see this go bigger, why don't you start your own branch? And you can use the name as long as you follow by a couple simple rules. One, don't do it on Monday morning. Pick another morning of the week. So it doesn't conflict with us. Two, no name tags. I hate name tags. I hate that whole.
Oh, yeah.
I always say is that whenever I go to an event, got a name tag, Richard Gibbs,
Label, yeah.
subtitle or something I've done,
Yeah.
and I always say I feel like, a beautiful buxom woman must feel. It's like the guys are just like, I'm up here,
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good excuse, though.
Yeah, I once made a T-shirt, the on-demand stuff, and I did in the smallest font possible. It was like, honest to God, you had to get right up at it, and it said, "Stop staring at my boobs."
Yes, that's how I feel with name tags. So I said, no name tags,
Yeah.
because I want this to be collegial, convivial.
Yeah.
And then the third thing was you can't charge for it. You can't make money off of it.
Right.
Because I don't. And if anybody's going to make money, it should be me.
No
And I don't want to. That's not what it's about. There's a charge at the door for the venue to pay for the food. That's just for the. We don't see any of that.
Right.
So with that in mind, there was one that started over the hill in Agora. There was another one there's another one that's going strong in Santa Monica. There's one that's been on and off again in Silver Lake.
Mm-hmm.
They're all much smaller. This is the mothership.
Yeah.
And then there's the one in Nashville, which I think right now is still just they're just Zoom.
Okay. Well, we have a dear friend, Hollis, who owns the former Douglas Corner on 8th Street in Nashville. It is now a really sexy room that can seat up to 100. It's a nightclub, but it's called the 8th Room. If you'd like me to introduce your Nashville peeps to him and see if they can work something out, it would be the perfect venue.
That's great. Great. Yeah. They're actually, Aviator Nation is opening another Dreamland in Nashville.
Oh, okay.
But that's going to be huge. It's a much bigger venue, so it might not be appropriate. So we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, he's got a bar. He doesn't have food, but he's got a huge parking lot on the side. They could pull in a couple of breakfast trucks and people could just go get a burrito or something. I'll introduce you. He's just a great guy.
That'd be great. Well, we have a lot of fun at these things. It started just with us having breakfast together and hanging out and talking. And as it got bigger and bigger, the format changed into kind of more like a TEDx,
Oh, yeah.
We have every week we have a featured speaker or two, and we usually have a performance. Almost always we have a live performance as well.
Great.
Shall I bring the stripper pole then?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I don't know if that'd be appropriate for the performer we have, but I'll let you know.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
The ceiling might not be high enough for her stripper pole.
I'm trying to erase the vision out of my head right now.
You could.
No.
There are going to be things Ange will say that you cannot unsee, and I'm sorry about that.
I am too.
You've got a week to back out, so think of a good excuse.
Well, the one category of speaker that I don't allow, or at least I try to avoid, is composer.
Oh.
I'm not really interested in what another composer has to say necessarily, unless they're there to talk about something other than composing.
I see.
Interesting.
We had a guy, a composer out here in Malibu, who I asked to speak, but he never said one word about composing. I asked him to speak because he's a wingsuit flyer.
Oh, great.
And he had video of himself, like a flying squirrel. And at one point in one of the videos, he actually crashed. He almost died, and he had it on film.
Oh,
Wow.
God.
So that's fascinating to me, People who do unusual things. I'm looking for inspiration, not for how-to videos.
Yes, no, absolutely. We had a lady here last week, client Linda Arcello Earle. She's married to Roger Earle, the drummer and original founder of Foghat, who are up for a Grammy this year for Sonic Mojo. And They had a show in Southern California here. So she flew out with them and went to visit her girlfriend down in Torrey Pines, and they jumped out of a couple of airplanes. And she's a little bit older than me. I don't think she's 70, but she's in that range. And she just, since she was a kid, she wanted to be a bird, and she manages fog hats. So on the weekend, she jumps out of airplanes.
Now, see, that's who I want. Now, so I'll give you, this is the example we've had. And by the way, I don't shy away from controversy at all. I enjoy it. We've had RFK Jr. speak a couple times.
Okay.
Very controversial figure, obviously.
Of course. But hey, First Amendment, right?
That, and, I actually think he gets miscast.
Yeah.
At times. But one of my favorite speakers was a guy that I was just poking around on the internet one day, and I saw a little blurb about a guy who had set the world speed record for remote controlled glider flight.
Good grief.
A remote controlled plane with no engine, and it was remote controlled, and he set the world speed record.
Good heavens.
What a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
So guess what? I love this. How fast do you think that record was?
In a glider? Probably north of 180 miles an hour.
No human in it. Like 9 foot 10 wingspan.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Take a wild guess.
214 miles an hour.
453 miles an hour.
Oh, Jesus H. Christ.
So when I saw that, I said, this is not possible.
Wow.
So, and he had a very unusual name, Spencer Lisenby. So, so I thought, well, I wonder if he's on Facebook. Sure. I mean, there can't be too many Spencer Lisenbys.
Right.
No, not a lot.
Sure enough, he's there. And not only that, he's local. So, wow. So I put a friend request in. He got right back to me within an hour. Exchanged phone numbers. I started talking to him. And next thing I know, I had him booked to come speak at the Breakfast Club. And he brought one of the gliders with him and explained how this all works, how he did it. It's through a fascinating thing called dynamic soaring.
Wow.
Which DARPA, Defense Advanced, other people have been talking with him about. And it uses winds during Santa Ana winds that blow here in the fall.
Yeah.
Go up to a mountaintop out in the middle of nowhere, north of here.
Yeah.
Throw it into the wind.
Huh.
Hits the wind, banks off of the wind, immediately picks up 60 miles an hour of speed, and he's controlling the ailerons, and it brings it back around behind the mountain, drops down, and then comes back up, hits that wall of wind again, picks up another 60 miles an hour, and within a matter of a couple of minutes, it's doing 200 or 300 miles an hour.
Good heavens.
He invited me to come, and I witnessed this for myself. It's scary as hell.
I bet.
This thing's wrong.
Well, it sounds to me like it might be the same sort of logic pattern that they use when they're trying to bring people home from space. If they just miss that little window, they careen off and they go into another trajectory and they catch, I don't know, gravity or wind or whatever the heck it is. One of our clients, he's an incredible musician, singer, songwriter, guitar player, Nick Marischal. He is a doctor of mathematics from UCLA, and he was one of the people who invented half of the aperture radar stuff that is the GPS that is in all of our iPhones. So I'll introduce you to him too.
Turn me on to him.
Yeah.
I wonder if he knows Skunk. You know Skunk Baxter? You know
Yeah.
that?
I know Skunk.
Another iconoclastic autodidact, right?
Yeah. Oh, they're all podcasts, these people. It's
Holy
amazing.
maths, I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've had Skunk speak, and I'd love to get this gentleman to speak. Yeah, that
Nick Marischal. I'll turn you on to him.
Yeah.
And do you also know producer engineer Nico Bolas?
Yes, I mean I don't know him well, but I've met him a few times. It certainly
He's another one. He and his brother Mark Bolas invented all kinds of stuff. Our friendship goes back to the early 1980s. And Mark was putting telephone. He would dial a number, we would pick it up, and then Mark would put the telephone in the microwave to see what happened to the radio signal. And they had some way on an old PC that they built in the garage how to manage the wave signals. And the naughty boys, they found a way that they created a device where you could call from Pacific Bell only, telephone pay booths for nothing, because you put this thing over the mouthpiece and it would think a quarter had dropped.
Oh, yeah, it makes the sound. Yeah. Yeah.
But Nico's, he's had face-based music. He's got a bunch of patents and stuff. So when he's in New York at the moment, but I'll turn you on to him as well.
Mm-hmm. He works with Neil Young a lot
he
too.
is Neil Young's, producing
No,
part.
I know. And it's not, I love that people think smart musician is an oxymoron, but it's not.
No.
You know?
There are a few.
Yeah. There are a few. We've known a few.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So back to the sort of the beginning. What was your first and only instrument the piano, the keyboard, or are you a multi-instrumentalist?
I can play several instruments well enough to torture practitioners of that instrument.
Okay.
But, I was forced, kind of forced piano when I was 5. Mom made me take piano.
Yeah.
Me and my brothers. I stuck with it. But by the time junior high came around, now I discovered these things called girls, and so I moved to guitar. There was this band called the Beatles. I saw them on Ed Sullivan and said, "Oh,
they're not going anywhere."
Rubbish.
All the girls screaming at me like that."
Yeah.
Took up guitar, but I never got that good on guitar. And then people I was playing with discovered, wait a minute, you're actually a really good piano player. Why don't you play organ? So I bought a Hammond organ and taught myself how to play Allman Brothers stuff, and off and running from there. But I also played trombone all the way through school.
Wow. What's that old 80s joke? What's the definition of an optimist? A trombone player with a pager.
Yes, that's a good one. What does the trombone player say when you open the door?
No.
Here.
Huh?
Pizza's here.
Pizza's here. Oh, poor trombone players.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a reason I went back to, I never made a living as a trombone player, that's for sure.
No, there's not a lot of us.
But I think you've done reasonably well as a piano player and onwards.
And composer.
Composer,
as a keyboard player, I did well. I was a session player. I was a session player before I joined Oingo Boingo. But once I joined the band, it became kind of a calling card for me.
Yeah.
And that was right at the beginning of, the peak, I guess, really, of the new wave movement.
Yeah.
We were seen as part of that. And most musicians in the punk and new wave era weren't necessarily school musicians. I was. And so people started calling me as a session player. And I played on, 150, 200 albums, just as a hired gun.
Yeah.
And then somebody knew I had this training as a composer, because that's my degree is classical composition. He said, "Hey, you want to try scoring this movie?" Wow. And I did it and did a reasonable job at it. That led to this job, that job, then boom, boom, boom. Indirectly and totally coincidentally I started working as Tracy Ullman's musical director.
Oh, yes. Love her.
I do too.
I've never met her, but I think I'd probably pass out if I did.
Oh, she's the best. I love Tracy to death, and I like to think it's mutual. So I was her musical director for the Tracy Ullman show, wow. And then the subsequent shows she did for HBO. When she was doing the Tracy Ullman show, there was this little 1-minute short that was on the show called The Simpsons.
Yep.
And they didn't have music in it, but it was so popular. Everybody loved it.
Yep.
And I befriended Matt Groening, who created it. And every once in a while, Matt would need like a little piece of, a calliope or something.
Yeah.
Not scored. It's a minute long. But we became friends. And then when they decided to spin that off to its own show, completely coincidentally, they asked Danny, my old compatriot in Boingo, to write the theme.
Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the theme, and they asked me to score it, not knowing that we knew each other, that we'd been in a band together for 5 years.
my goodness.
Wow. That's like the Partridge Family story. When David Cassidy went to audition for Keith Partridge, they didn't know that they had already cast Shirley Jones as Mrs. Partridge and that she was his real life stepmom. The casting people had no idea.
And then there are other stories that we won't get into there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's Brady Bunch. I'm confusing him with the Brady Bunch. So sorry.
Yeah, no, you can't confuse him with the Brady Bunch.
No.
Richard.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
Sorry.
What age were you when you first started in the music business, or knew you wanted to be a musician?
Professionally.
I would say through junior high, I wanted to be, my father and other people thought I should be a lawyer because I had the gift of gab and reasonably intelligent and spelling champion and all that kind of stuff. And I thought about it. It seemed like it'd be fun to be a defense attorney. But then
I couldn't think of anything. What
Fun. Oh, I don't know.
I was young, okay. And then I also wanted to be a veterinarian. And then I learned the veterinarians go through the same amount of schooling as a regular doctor, but earn about a quarter of the money. So that's stupid. I don't want to do that.
And you have to stick your arm up horses' bums, don't you, occasionally?
Well, then there's that. But then that paid off later when I scored Dr. Dolittle. But so it was when I was the whole time I'm playing in rock bands for fun and starting to see the path forward. So I would say by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was starting to take it seriously. Then I skipped my senior year of high school, did an advanced placement program at the local community college, went into that. And the band director there turned me on to Berklee College of Music. And I started looking into it and said, you know what, this sounds good to me. This sounds like a career. I want to be a session musician. I wanted to be a jazz musician. So I went to Berklee with that in mind. And once I graduated, came out here and quickly realized that rock and roll is where the money is.
Yeah.
And started playing in rock bands and there we go.
So where did you come from? Where was home for you? Where are your roots?
Born in Ohio and raised in a little town called Worcester, Ohio, small town. And my parents divorced. And without getting into all the sad story around that, my mother and I ended up in Ormond Beach, Florida, where her mother lived.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up in Florida, and that's how I ended up taking up surfing at the age of 12. And then went to Boston to go to Berklee College of Music.
Of course.
Graduated there, took an old beat-up old Dodge Tradesman van filled with my Fender Rhodes and my Mini Moog and surfboards and my buddy, and we drove nonstop from Boston to California.
Wow. And was Malibu the goal, just Route 66 to Santa Monica turn right?
Kind of. I mean, actually, we went to Santa Cruz first.
Okay.
And then
awesome.
I went way down the coast. I wasn't really sure. Actually, I'd been to Los Angeles once. So I got it.
Yeah.
This frog.
That's quite all right. We'll bring you some nice Mrs. McCartney's tea next Monday for you. We have something called Rockstar Rescue. I'll bring you some.
Please. So where was I?
How old would you be when you landed in California?
Oh, my first time in California, I was 16. I marched as part of our high school band from Daytona Beach called the Seabreeze Marching 100. We're invited to march in the Tournament of Roses parade.
What a way to start the year, huh?
Big deal.
That was my first time in California, marching down Colorado Boulevard.
Yeah.
Trombone. And, trombone players, by the way, we called the Marching 100, but it was a 200-piece band. Trombone, by the way, I highly recommend if you can be in a marching band, you play trombone. And here's why. Where do they always put trombones? They always put them in the first rank of the marching band because of that reach.
Yes. Oh, yes.
This is going to bump into people. What's the advantage of being in the first row of a marching band?
Yeah.
The
So-
girls are in front of you.
Okay. I was going to say,
Baton twirlers and all that. It's like, oh, yes, I've got the best.
and our friend John Burns, whose birthday it is today, by the way, happy birthday, John. He's a trombone player and he plays in local stuff around here. So I hope his wife Dervla's not watching. That maybe that's why he took up trombone. But yeah, it's like you don't want to be the last dog on the sled, do you? With all the other dogs off.
Yeah. I don't want clarinet. Anyway, it was fun, and that's when I realized for sure. I already knew I wanted to go to California because it's the surf capital and it's the recording capital.
Yeah.
So it was the only place that had that confluence.
Right.
And so I already knew that anyway, but then marching down Colorado Boulevard cemented it for me.
Absolutely. How many years did it take you to get back from New Year's Day to when you actually arrived with the van?
Well, I don't know, 5, because I went through college first.
Oh, okay.
Another year of high school and then college. And I left directly from Berkeley, from Boston, and drove out here.
Did you have anywhere to land, or did you just couch surf or sleep in the van? Or
I had barely enough money to rent a tiny little studio apartment. By the way, I have a podcast series, my own podcast series.
Yes.
Called invisiblearts.com. That's my plug right now.
Yeah, perfect.
And I tell all these, because music's the only invisible art, right? So
Yes.
Invisible Arts. And I tell all these, bizarre stories from my life, but I bring in my friends too, to help me tell the story from different points of view. And there's one I haven't recorded yet. And that's the story of when I arrived in LA. And I look forward to telling that story. So I rented a tiny little studio apartment on Beechwood Drive, lined up directly with the
Hollywood
sign, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the manager of the apartment building was a big 4-story apartment building filled with studio apartments. Was this very flamboyant, gay, mail order priest.
Mail order priest. I don't think I've ever heard those 3 words in the same sentence.
His name was Reverend Bill Amos. I'm sure he's no longer with us, so I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with me telling the story. I realized later that he was looking to stock up the building with, potential young dudes. And my apartment was facing the street, directly across the hall from his apartment, facing the street. And one night, I'm trying to sleep, and I had a crazy lady that lived above me, like really crazy. This lady had, but when I say mail order priest, he literally had like a thing on his wall that said he was ordained by the University of Southern North Dakota, some ridiculous school that doesn't exist.
Right.
And he would go out every weekend looking to pick up young men.
Yeah.
And then Sunday morning, I'd watch him leave, and he'd be wearing his frock
Yeah.
with a little
Dog
white collar
Mm-hmm.
and a muumuu. He would preach to a congregation of American Samoans.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh.
But you make this stuff up, right?
No, exactly.
So one night, I'm trying to sleep in this, and and this was right at the time of the Hillside Strangler,
Oh, yeah.
right? And the Hillside Strangler was dropping off bodies in the blocks right around our apartment building. Like the next street over, they would find a body. Then 2 weeks later, they'd find another one on the other side. So one night, I'm asleep. I hear the sound. That sound that wakes you up and you don't even know what it was, but it's like this thump.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, what was that? Now my bed was right up against a window with bars on it that looked out to the side of the building.
Sounds splendid.
And so the thump was like right there. It's like, wow, what was that? And I start to open the window, You see, what was that sound? And I hear, actually, my throat's perfect for this right now. I hear this sound. It's like, like, what the fuck? And I shut the window very quickly. I said, my first thought, it's 2 a.m. I'm completely sleep deprived. It's a tiger must have escaped from Griffith Park, from the zoo. And it got hit by a car. That's the thump I heard out in front of the building. And it's crawled up alongside my window to die. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God. And then it dawned on me, the next thought was, it's the Hillside Strangler.
Yeah.
Killing a woman right by my window.
Oh, jeez.
That's what it sounded like. I've got to do something. I crawled out of bed, hero that I am, crawled out of bed, hands and knees, grabbed a telephone, because no cell phones back then, went into the closet and called 911. Now I'm feeling really stupid because I'm hiding in my closet with a bathrobe on it. And I go, no, I got to know what's going on. So I go out the front door of the building. You got to kind of visualize this. Go out into the street. So I'm peering down alongside the building at the side where that side window was. And there's the crazy old lady who lived upstairs.
Oh, no.
Portuguese woman who lived on the second floor.
I remember that evening quite well.
You? Oh, no. She was Portuguese. Her name was Millie. And she had attempted suicide from the second floor. And flat on her back.
Oh, no.
Rib. And the sound I was hearing was blood gurgling in her lungs.
Oh, my God, Richard.
But she survived. That's my introduction to Hollywood.
Yes.
Wow. Well, yeah, welcome to Hollywood. So for those of you watching around the world who don't know where Beechwood Canyon is, it is directly below the Hollywood sign and about 4 blocks behind Capitol Records, which is at Hollywood and Vine.
Yes, you could walk to Capitol.
Capitol, absolutely. Did you ever go to Victor's Deli? They had the best schmear.
No, I can't say that I have.
Right at the bottom of Beechwood and Franklin. It was there.
I used to go up. Well, that was in a hotel building or something.
No, it's a strip mall.
I used to go to the Beechwood Cafe.
Yes.
Way up. That's still there and quite delightful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Joanne's just saying a couple of things. Great horror story for Halloween. And also, she said before, her ex-husband, or her late husband, did she say? Her ex-husband was a trombone player. Now she knows. Oh, my late husband was a trombone player. Now I know why.
Yeah,
because the girls were out.
What is it? You know why?
Because in a marching band, they put the girls right in front of the drum.
Oh, and now you know why she picked trombone. I see.
Yeah. Oh, that is absolutely wild. So obviously, you're not in Oingo Boingo yet, right?
No, not at that stage.
How did you and Danny meet? Was it just in the clubs on Hollywood Boulevard and the scene, or?
Well, that's actually in my. I do tell that story in my podcast, but a concise version of it is that I got the gig to play with a Welshman, Tom Jones.
Oh, love him.
I'm of Welsh descent myself, by the way.
Okay.
My dad is Welsh, and so I'm playing keyboards with Tom Jones. I loved him, hated the band. It wasn't. He usually has very good bands. This was not one of them. And I was in the Weather Report. I'd gone from the Beatles to
were you?
Jazz Fusion and Mahavishnu Orchestra and all this.
Wow.
And playing What's New Pussycat wasn't high on my list of things I wanted to do.
No.
Every night I'm playing with Tom. We go to Argentina for 2 weeks. Then we had a 2-week stand in Vegas, and I was losing it. I literally was getting an ulcer.
Oh God!
And when we got to Vegas, I served notice to the musical director. I said, I can't. This isn't me. I'm so sorry. And he goes, No, I get it. I can tell it's not your thing. And so the other keyboard player in the band was a gentleman named Jonathan Wolfe, who went on to immense fortune for writing the theme music for Seinfeld.
Nice.
Oh boy.
Nicely done, Jonathan.
All sorts of other sitcoms. He had hundreds of episodes out on the air at any given time.
Wow.
Good boy.
well, a bunch of other shows. Anyway, but at the time, he was a struggling musician like me. He had been approached about, there's this band looking for a keyboard player. He handed me the phone number. He goes, it's not for me, but Richard is just crazy enough to where this might be right for him.
Wow.
Oingo Boingo, but I had never seen them. And it was Danny Elfman's number. That's how I got his number.
Wow.
As soon as I got back to LA 2 weeks later, I called up Danny and he goes, it's funny, we were looking for you. We didn't know how to get hold of you. Again, back in the day before cell phones, and I'm out on the road. So I go down an audition and we hit it off musically, and that's it. Bob's your uncle, as you say.
Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt, we think. That's amazing. Do you know my starter husband, Paul Antonelli, from X-Animotion by any chance?
No, but I love the term starter.
So he was the keyboard.
No, I didn't recover from that one.
Yeah. He was the keyboard player in Animotion, who had a big hit that Michael DeBar and Holly wrote called Obsession. And he has followed your path too. He's got 7 daytime Emmys for composing for television too. So it seems to be sort of a natural path that if you can get into that, off the tour bus and into composing for film. What do you think now about all of these Sonu and all of that? I mean, I think they're crap, and you probably do too. Do you see any
AI in general?
Yeah, AI in general. What do you think the jeopardy might be there, or do you think people will just always want organic music?
Well, it's a complicated answer. How much time do we have? I've
Whatever.
actually been asked to be on a panel along with Brian Eno and his brother and some other people. A small panel that's going to be an advisory panel to Roland Corporation and a bunch of other companies, and coincidentally Berkeley and Universal Music Group, about AI.
Yeah.
I think the reason I was asked is because I'm a bit of a connector, with Composers Breakfast Club, A. B, I'm also a technologist, being a former synthesist and keyboard player and studio owner now. And C, I'm an intellectual property rights activist at the first order. So I'm a little more well-versed than the average bear on the ethics, morality, logistics, and finances that are imperiled by AI.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of the curmudgeon in the group, perhaps. I don't know. We haven't had our first meeting yet.
Right.
I'm definitely very attuned to it. We've had people come speak, many people speak about AI for the Breakfast Club. Do I think it's crap? Yeah, for now. But let me put it to you this way. Like, I get people all the time as a film composer. A woman comes to me and says, oh, my son just graduated Berkeley and, he plays saxophone, but he's writing this music. I think he should score movies. What do you think? And my first answer is no. And then I said, well, yeah, but it's really good. Will you listen to it? And I go, please, okay. Please don't, but okay. And I'll listen to it. And the reality is, most of the time, it sounds like film music.
Uh-huh.
I'll say to him, it sounds like film music. But that's not what film music is.
No.
That's kind of like saying, you go jogging down the street. Oh, you look like somebody in the Olympics.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, there's a huge gap there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about AI.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like music. Like you definitely can't tell. It's gotten to the level now where somebody can play something that was created with AI. If they're really good about it, they know how to manipulate it well. They can create something that I listen to. I can't tell the difference. And if I can't, I know the man on the street can't.
Right. And especially when they dumb it down to MP3 and these stupid little white headphones that we're supposed to use, right?
Right. All of it. But here's the difference. I've yet to hear anything with AI that got me excited.
Yeah.
Made me go, oh, that's amazing. Now, the AI proponents say that's only a matter of time.
Okay.
And I have no doubt that they're right.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a huge issue with legality and the finances involved. You
Yep.
cannot copyright AI music.
Correct.
No.
Where's the incentive? The people who are the most threatened by AI, actually, to me, are film and television composers.
Right.
Yes.
But the thing is that whenever I'm going into the weeds here on you.
No, that's
No.
Whenever I'm hired to score a movie or a television show, that's called a work made for hire.
correct.
And the studio, it's Warner Brothers or Columbia Pictures, whoever, they own the rights to it. I get my writer's share. I make my money from that, but they control it.
The publishing.
And they get the publishing side. They usually own that outright, or at least a huge hunk of it.
And they get the administration rights too. They can put it anywhere, right?
Importantly, and so they make money. It's an income stream for them. So the film companies and television companies are, as of now, disincentivized to use AI music because they can't collect copyright money on it.
Right.
Mhm.
The problem
Yeah.
is an extremely slippery slope because
Just
you can tell whether it's been done with AI or not. So composers are going to be using, if they haven't already, using AI music, claiming it as their own. Now the next industry is going to be AI detection.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we are. Yeah, we're involved with a company in London. We're partnered called Intelligent Voice, and my husband that you'll meet on Monday, Martin Nethercutt, we have something called verifiedvoicevault.com, and we are intaking spoken word actors, Native American chiefs, people who are getting older, and we're putting them in our voice vault and we're verifying them. And we have a technology where we can stamp somebody's spoken voice and tell you if that's really Will Arnett's voice in every Dodge commercial, reading out the address of the dealership, or if that has been cloned, and so on and so forth. So, the Copyright Office, I've had several calls with them, and you can't even copyright your own spoken voice. You can upload a song, you can upload an MP3 and all the lyrics and the music, but the US Copyright Office currently has no way of saying this is Tom Brokaw's voice and it's copyright and you can put it in a vault. So that's what we're trying to do.
Because it's not intellectual property. That's not a creation.
Right, but you can copyright what he's reading if he wrote it,
Correct.
but not the timbre of his voice.
Correct.
And that's what I'm trying to fight from our side is, there are lots of distinctive voices who are now being cloned on all these crap fake YouTube videos. I heard somebody the other night who sounded like Ashley Banfield, somebody pretending to be Don Lemon, somebody pretending to be Anderson Cooper. And so our partners in London, Intelligent Voice, work with the Metropolitan Police, the European government, whatever, and they can literally tell you in the silence between when the voice stops and starts, those milliseconds, there's something that Martin christened digital wind, and it's a signature audio pixel where we can tell you which technology was used to clone what voice and sometimes which IP address it came from.
But what about when they blend it?
Right. So that's difficult, except that there is always a silent piece. People don't talk nonstop without, they have to stop for breath, right? So if you look at a waveform, there's always a tiny weeny piece of silence. It's that silence that we need from the cloned file to be able to identify who cloned you and then go after them. But most of these people are in Eastern European or Asian countries who don't respect copyright, and they change their IP addresses. They're using VPNs, they're masking stuff. It's going to get really tough for the spoken voice actor, but we have McCartney.ai we're trying to fight that fight. We'll chat about that over a cup of tea next Monday.
Yes, we shall.
Yeah.
That's a deep topic.
Yeah, I mean, we're the sheriff in town. We're trying to use it for good. Is if you want your grandfather, after he has passed, to read the dedication at your wedding with your family's permission, we can also then clone that voice in the vault and make that happen. But we're trying to use it for good to protect actors' voices who are just getting cloned and used for these crappy YouTube videos.
Well, AI, it's obviously it's going to change the entire world. We're putting cab drivers out of business,
Truck drivers.
I refuse, when I go to the supermarket, I refuse to use the auto scan.
Me too.
Absolutely, yeah.
I won't use them.
I want to interact with a human.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of that? Is all you're doing is trying to make the owners of the corporation rich, and they don't need my money.
No, the Kroger family has enough.
Yeah. So, and that gets back to me, the heart of the issue, as vis-a-vis music anyway, is that as musicians, as composers, as songwriters, even as players, we're storytellers.
Yeah.
People want to hear a story from one person to another. They want to, it's a means of connecting across space and time. And if we can't do that, if it's one way or the other, we're sitting around the digital campfire telling stories, that's fine. But as soon as you realize across the campfire from you is, UNIVAC 1000,
Yeah.
I'm not interested in that story anymore. And I think that's what people need to hear, unless they want to have their babies being raised by computers.
Oh God.
By the way, they are more and more by, iPads, but I will rail against that till my dying day.
I was at the dentist a couple of months ago, and somebody had their probably 2-year-old with them, just a toddler, and a bunch of magazines on the table. And the toddler opened the magazine and started doing this with its fingers to the paper and started crying when it wouldn't get any bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. So same thing with television. They'll go up to a TV and say, wait, what?
Mhm.
Wait, make it bigger. But don't you think, having seen obviously the Abbey Road sessions and been in 1,000 studios, I was an artist a million years ago. A lot of the creation of music is the organic part of people sitting together and saying, well, what if we did it in, this, what if you dropped the G to a zero? What if you sang a third instead of a fifth here? And, AI isn't going to know all of that stuff that you will have experienced. You have a studio.
You're looking at it. This is it here.
Right. So, talk about, it's absolutely beautiful. So,
Yes, I was looking at your wonderful studio, Woodshed.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, go to woodshedrecording.com and look it up.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah, I was a technologist. I was a synthesist.
right.
I was the guy who would show up. I'd get hired as a keyboard player to bring in early samplers and play along with an orchestra. And the players in the orchestra would get mad at me because I'm playing a marimba parts, and the percussionists would come, why don't you just sample my wallet? I actually had a guy say that to me. I said, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just doing what the composers asked me to do. But I get it. Now, and composers more and more, especially for television, are replacing orchestras with synthetic orchestras.
Yeah.
And the average listener can't hear the difference.
Right.
I can hear it most of the time. I can be fooled, but most of the time I can hear it. But here's what you'll always be able to tell the difference if you A/B it. If I record a piece of music and use all my samples and everything else to create something wonderful, and people go, oh, that sounds great. Say, okay, now let me record it with a real orchestra. It goes like this. It's a huge difference, but people don't know that until they A/B it. Of course, consumers aren't going to A/B it. They don't care. The music is behind car crashes and dialogue and everything else, so nobody really cares.
Right.
The problem is that people don't care.
Well, and the other problem is the budgets just aren't there anymore. You've got movies being churned out because we have to feed this beast called, the internet and Roku and all of these TV channels and, Amazon Prime and Netflix and all of that stuff. And if you can make a movie for, $5 to $8 million and double or triple your money, you certainly can't afford to be in Capitol Studio A with a union orchestra.
Well, yeah, you actually can. I've done it. There's a special agreement with the union called the I can't remember to call it, the low budget agreement.
Oh, okay.
So you can do that, or you can record overseas. Not that I recommend it, but you can. There are ways around that. I've done it. The main thing is for me, I just refuse. I started refusing. If somebody wants me to imitate an orchestra with my amazing machinery that I have here, I won't do it. I'll just say, sorry, go hire that kid down the block. Not because it won't sound good, although that's part of it. The bigger thing for me is it's no fun.
Right.
I'm not enjoying it. I've recorded in Abbey Road with a 95-piece orchestra.
Yeah, amazing.
The joy of that.
Yeah.
The sound, the glory, just purely from a selfish point of view. And
Yeah.
I know that is imparted to the audience.
To the fabric of the project, right?
It's ephemeral, it's in there, but it's there.
Yeah.
If I'd done, that was the first time I went to Abbey Road was for a movie called First Kid, a Sinbad movie. It wasn't a huge movie, but I had a 95-piece orchestra. It was for Disney.
Great.
And I was there for 5 days at Abbey Road. And it sounded glorious. It was so good.
Yeah.
I know if I did that today, somebody would ask me to do it with samples.
Right.
No. Yeah, you can get somebody to do that.
Yeah. Or in Budapest.
Yes. That's not why I do what I do.
Right.
I do what I do because I enjoy it, and I count on that joy coming across in the music that people hear and in the movies that they watch. So
I liken it to cooking. We represent a bunch of chefs and restaurants, and I'm a decent line cook. I turn out some good family meals, but it's again the difference between what I can put on the table and what a trained chef who has a palate and has done their years in the spice markets and the farmers markets, and they know this tomatillo from that tomato or whatever. It's like food to me, which is my passion. You even if you can't hear the difference, you can feel the difference.
Yeah. I mean, there's a great analogy in here. I got to think about it, but I have friends I have one friend in particular who is a raw food chef, vegan chef, who's amazing.
Interesting.
His name is Chef Ito. He has a restaurant here's a plug, a restaurant in downtown LA called Aulac, AULAC.
Okay.
He took a vow of silence over 20 years ago. Doesn't speak a word. And he's a phenomenal chef. Now, he's working with raw food, right? And, it can be warmed up, but it's not cooked.
Right.
I say that's as close as you're going to get to real food, right?
Nature.
Then you go through now we're talking about boiling it, or okay, it's cooked a bit more. It's changed the molecular structure a bit, but at least it's still good. That's equivalent to me of using an electric guitar, right? Yep. And then you go to
deep fried crap from Cisco trucks.
Or McDonald's, right? And then now, okay, that's still technically real food, but
AI music.
it's pretty bad. It's pretty junky. That's the equivalent of sampled orchestra music to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now AI. Now here's the scary little story for you. Look up a company. In Seattle. Is it Portland? Seattle. I think it's Seattle. Called Intellectual Ventures.
Okay.
You ever heard of these guys?
No.
I had a friend who was recently left there, but he was an inventor. That it's a couple of buildings, huge buildings, like warehouse-sized buildings, just stuffed with scientists and inventors. Wow. It's funded by Microsoft and a bunch of other tech companies. And they basically just give them, a carte blanche, this budget. It's kind of like a civilian version of DARPA.
Okay.
And they have one building, it's filled with scientists doing totally crazy stuff. And the other building is filled with every tool known to mankind, from the smallest jeweler's screwdriver to huge 3D printers that can make tanks.
What?
They have a fusion reactor attempted in there. They're doing insane things. One of the things they did was, you can look this up on YouTube. Look up, this guy's name is Pablos, Pablos. Pablos, Google this, anybody who's on here. Pablos, and put in mosquito lasers.
What?
And he and his team at Intellectual Ventures were given the task of use all the power at your fingertips to wipe out malaria in Africa.
Wow.
And they've all because it was a particular pet project of Bill Gates. So
Yes.
one of the things they came up with was, and I've seen it in action myself, they put poles up outside the village, and maybe there's, I don't know, 8 poles around the village, 12 feet high. And on top of each pole is a dual laser.
Okay.
One of the lasers is motion sensitive, and it'll pick up anything moving in the air, and it'll identify what it is by the speed, by the size, and by down to not just whether it's a mosquito, but what type of mosquito it is,
What?
and whether it's a male or female, because only the female mosquitoes suck blood. And I'm not going to make the obvious sexist comment on that.
or bank or money or ex-wife related content.
So once that identifies that's a female, what I don't remember what mosquito is that carries the malaria virus. But once it identifies that, the second laser kicks in and zaps it out of midair.
Wow.
And they have a bunch of them put around the concept you put around a village, and it'll just constantly kill these mosquitoes.
Wow.
He demonstrated it at TED, at the TED conference.
Yep.
So there's video of this, and I saw it. My wife and I went to Intellectual Ventures, and he showed it to me. This is all by way of saying the scariest part for you as a chef. They are looking to do 3D printing of food.
Oh yeah. No, one of my chefs in Houston's doing it. He's printing chocolate.
He wants to be able to 3D print a strawberry in such a way that you can't tell whether it's a real strawberry or not.
David Skinner, who's my Choctaw Native American chef in Houston, has been 3D printing food since 2019.
Now, I can't help but to think of all of the unintended consequences of that, of health, in terms of the quality of the food, in terms of humanity. And, this is such a Frankenstein's monster that we keep continuing to create over and over and over.
Right.
A bad 50s sci-fi movie.
Our friend Dina Sheldon, who is NFL Hall of Famer camera woman, she lives out in Palm Springs, and she was just inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. She also filmed with her partner Jeff Zachary, several inaugurations, Reagan's funeral. Just an amazing lady. She should come speak next time she's out here. She's just looked up your reference, and it's Pablos Holman. Is that
what I said? I thought I did say Holman.
Pablos, you said Pablos mosquitoes, something or others. But anyway,
I would say Google Pablos mosquito, right, and you'll find.
And his name is Holman. So
he professionally just goes by Pablos.
Yeah. So, that's incredible. Mosquitoes are a bigger problem than most people would think.
It's the number one killer of humans, they say.
Yep. And then road safety after that. Wow. We might not be leaving unless you have a bigger name on the other line, we might not be leaving the Malibu Composers Breakfast Club till maybe noon next Monday.
We want them to hang. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun. We invite. How many people are on right now?
Hard to tell through StreamYard because they block cookies, so I don't know. But we'll probably get in the next week or so. We'll probably get 5 or 6 or 7,000 views on YouTube.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, all of you are invited to come to the Composers Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Every Monday morning, come hang out, and these kinds of discussions are what we do every week. We have a lot of fun and meet the ladies.
There he goes again, trying to be complimentary. So our regular viewers will know that Madam is, a prolific author, and she writes a limerick for every one of our special guests every week. And this is her book that we're going to talk about. We're going to do some poetry reading at Richard's Breakfast next week. It's Mrs. McCartney's Liverpool Limericks and Other Random Irish Haikus. and we're trying to get her on the ballot for the Spoken Word Poetry Grammy this year. Well, I don't know if we'll make the ballot, but what they've done is they've combined spoken word poetry with rap this year. So this one is up against Snoop Dogg and Kendrick Lamar. I can't see her walking away with the Grammy, but you never know.
You know what? I've grown quite fond of just recently. I've been turned on to what's her name? Pete and Boss. You know what those guys are?
No.
Oh, these are Pete and BAS, Boz.
Okay.
They are older than me, I think. There are people that are older than me. They are
Older than you.
That's for sure.
They are old English rappers.
Oh, I'll check them out.
And
Okay.
they're hilarious. They're so badass.
Pete
And
and
really good at it, but with that English thing.
Okay.
Yeah, Pete and Boss, figure that out. And a friend of mine has a guy you may know in the spoken word category named Sekou Andrews, Sekou.
Okay.
I think he's won spoken word, and it's you'll get the CBC bump by coming. We'll help you.
That's
Oh,
really
good.
sweet.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. So here's your mostly we do just one stanza of limerick, but you are so fabulous and special. You
get two verses.
You actually got two verses. Hold on, let me find the paper because we only wrote this morning. Haven't memorized it yet. But are you sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin.
All right.
Please.
And a one,
One,
two, three.
We're
We're so glad, dear Richard's our guest. He told us of what he does best. From writing his scores to the fans he adores, and the movies and shows he has blessed. When searching for rhymes matching Oingo, the internet came up with Boingo. So we'll scupper this theme, as it just doesn't seem that limerick format's going to work at all.
Sorry about that.
That's hilarious.
But it's been great fun, Richard.
Absolutely.
Most interesting. Thank you so much.
We will
And we'll see you next Monday. For
check
Becky.
out richardgibbs.com, Woodshed Recording, and Invisible Arts podcast for all things.
InvisibleArts.com. We're rehoming it right now, so it's not. I don't know that you can see it. It was on Spotify, but we are hosting it on that website, InvisibleArts.com. It's the best place to go anyway because there's ancillary material as well, photos and other stories.
There's a great Carl Reiner piece, which I really enjoyed too. So.
Oh, Carl was the best. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait. Meet you.
Wait a minute. Plug this.
Plug this.
Oh.
Okay. Turn around. I can see that. What is that? Tell the folks where they can find out more. The trombone attire.
Oh, well, the bugles, but Armory of Harmony.
Armory of Harmony. That's
nice.
nice.
Right. We didn't touch on that. Tell the folks. We've still got time. We're good.
We are. You can go to armoryofharmony.com or .org, and what we do is we collect the gunmetal from gun buyback programs around the country. After the guns have been destroyed and they're smelted down, we get the raw gun steel and steer it towards musical instrument manufacturers who make musical instruments utilizing that gun steel, and then give the instruments to high school programs around the country.
Fantastic.
Super.
Is there a film being made about that?
We've got little snippets, but no, not yet. We don't have a. We don't have a director on
talk
board.
about that too.
But it's going to be pretty cool. We just kept getting it going. We are apolitical. We're not taking a stance. We're not necessarily anti-gun or pro-gun, or we're just anti-gun violence.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
And pro-music. So that's what we're doing.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful.
Armory of Harmony. Okay, we get the kids to check all that out. Well, we'd love to have you back. Once all your things are rebuilt and up and running and whatever. You are just been a stellar, outstanding guest. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about your sore throat. Thank you for.
You can always get a job doing dirty phone calls.
Yes, with that voice.
I'm looking for you. I know now.
And a 976 line, I see. She wants one coming your way.
Okay, you set it up. I'll do it.
Okay, fine. You're on.
All right, kids. Well, lots of love and thanks for
Thank
playing.
you.
We'll see you all of a sudden.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Bye-bye.